Hello, my name is Taylor. I am going to be showing you guys how to get your Monarch Money set up in this next step video. Now, my numbering on these videos is awful, so there is a playlist to go watch this step by step. Basically, we have so far added your accounts, organized your categories, set up rules, cleaned up the data, and now that you've done all of those steps in the prior videos of this series, we are going to start actually creating a budget, putting together a budget, which is the purpose of Monarch, right? It's generally when most people sign up for Monarch. Now, that's not always the case. Sometimes you're just here for the reports, and if that's the case, you could technically ignore this next step. The budget feature does not have to be used. If you're just here to get a report on cash flow after the fact, looking at historical numbers, don't necessarily have to do this next part. But if you are like most people, you've got this budgeting app so you can budget and plan your cash flow and have intentions with where your money is being spent, this is going to be the next step for you. Now, before we get into that, I do want to encourage you guys to leave questions in the comments of what I am missing in this series. I've walked you through the first steps that I have all of my clients go through. Sometimes I'm doing it for them. Sometimes I make sure that they get these steps done first. And that is the core foundation of getting a budget set up. So if you are, watching these videos and you're like, well, she hasn't went over this yet, I can either direct you to a video I've already done, or I'll add that to the series and continue this series that we're working on right now. The other option I really encourage you to check out is making sure you sign up for my newsletter for the upcoming workshops that are coming up. You can ask questions live in a group, see what everyone else is thinking as far as how they put their budget together. It's so much better than leaving comments of questions because it's so hard to explain sometimes when you ask me certain questions and I need to show you. So make sure you have that newsletter signed up. Make sure you sign up for those workshops that are coming up when you get the email about them. They are coming soon. So again, newsletter link is in the description of this video. All right, so today we are working on the budget section. So we are going to make this guy full screen and we're going to start walking you through step by step of what you're doing to create this budget. Now, first things you need to be aware of, right? Your income section. This should only have income categories. You'll see income right here and then expense right here. Make sure this is only income categories. If you have another group in here for any expenses, that would be incorrect. So just make sure you've watched that video about setting up your categories. So there's nothing else except income in this section, and the rest of it should be all of your expenses. Now I've already set up the categories the way I like to see them, but maybe you have a different layout. Maybe it's your own thing. But you should have categories that look fairly similar if you've been watching this series. So the next thing I need you guys to point out is this left to budget number. This can cause a lot of confusion for a lot of people. This left to budget number is nothing to do with reality. It is not real life. And the only thing that this is referencing is this column right here, this left to this budget column, left to budget, column for the budget. So what this means is whenever you put your income in here, so let's say you're expecting about $15,000 of income. If that's what you're expecting, then your left to budget is greater. It means that you need to assign $8,875 because you've already assigned some of it. You can see right here, you've already assigned some of these dollars, but you have a bunch more that you need to assign, you need to plan for. This is purely just your intentions, your plan, the budget. Then you have this other column. It's actual. This is the reality. This is what is actually going on. This has been charged to your cards. This is coming out of your bank account so far this month. This remaining column is simply taking this number minus this number equals this number. Now, this number will also include any rollovers, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But basically it's just the budget minus what's actually come through to give you the remaining amount, what you have left over. If you're really truly wanting to stick to a budget, the goal is to use this remaining column as the way you're making financial decisions rather than what's in your bank account. If you look in here and you see that you have over budgeted for groceries, that means you need to try to not buy more groceries. Put it off till next month. Don't take that last trip to the store. Use the stuff that's in your pantry that's been sitting there forever. Clean it out. Clean out your freezer. Get creative with the recipes, right? So if you're doing budgeting properly, this remaining column is really, really important for you guys to be checking in on regularly. But this remaining column also needs to be reflecting a good budget. And that's where a lot of people get confused. This is where people start to hop between budgeting apps because the budget's never working. And it's because these numbers are normally not set up correctly. And so it's really hard to, if you're constantly seeing a negative like halfway through the month, how do you make a decision off that, right? If you're seeing that your grocery budget halfway through the month is in the red, what are you supposed to do? You have to still buy groceries, right? And so it doesn't allow you to have that data point, and then you don't trust the budget, you don't go off the budget, you can't make decisions off the budget, and that's why budgeting doesn't work. So this number has to be really, really accurate, or at least as accurate as we can possibly get it. And so I'm going to show you how you get to that point. So first off, we need to make sure we set up your income. Your budget for your income should be the whatever your paycheck is. So if you're on salary, this is super easy for you. If you're paying yourself a regular paycheck from your business, super easy for you. Set it up to whatever it is for you. Now, if you're clicking on this, you'll notice that the last 3 months of income show up. If your income fluctuates in any way, or maybe one of you in a partnership fluctuates, we need to make sure you separate out your paychecks. So you need to the person's who's salaried, this consistent paycheck in one section. And we need another category for the other person who has a flexible, inconsistent paycheck. So we'd go into your settings, go into categories, and make sure you create that. So you would have the inconsistent partner's income, and you wouldn't really type this out. You'd probably put partner 1 or partner 2, or your names, obviously. The variable income, I can spell inconsistent. Variable income needs to be here. So this could be business income, so you could just use the business income. If your one partner has a business, you could just use this. You don't need to create another one. But if one person has a job with variable income and you have a side business and you have a salary paycheck, do that. Make sure you separate these out. It'll be so much easier for you in the budgeting process if you get these separated. The other thing you're going to want to do is create a category for bonus income. If you get your bonus money, if you live off bonus checks throughout the year, you want to separate that from your base pay. If you have a base pay, separate that out from your bonuses so you can better plan and budget those bonuses. Okay, make sure you keep interest and other income. You will use these, especially if you have a high yield savings account, or if this one, it comes up for everyone. Something always comes up that causes extra income to come in, whether it's a check you weren't expecting, or I don't know. Always happens, so keep it, even if you don't feel like you're going to use it. So we're going to go back to the budget now. And we're going to set up the salary paycheck to be what your salary is. You probably can figure that out. It should be a consistent number at this point. Once you separate that out, and you make sure you separate out your partner's paycheck from yours, make sure you go reassign it to the other variable income column. But until then, let's see, how do I back out of this now? Going back to budget. Okay, so until then, what you'll do is just set the salary to whatever your salary is. So maybe this person's salary is $6,000 a month. The variable income, we're going to want to see what the last few months is. Now, yours should have some months in here. Once you actually put the data in here, you'll see it fluctuate. I would either go with the average, or if the average is very skewed, so 1 month is like 10 grand, 1 month is 0, I would put whatever you can really consistently bet on, expect. And so some people, that's really low compared to what it could be. So if you're pretty sure you can get about, $2,000 of income here, make sure you put that. If you're pretty sure it's 10,000, you're like, I guarantee I can get that. It's just everything above that fluctuates. Awesome, do that. And you'll be able to see what that will look like for you based off this. I'd encourage you to scroll through here to see what this looks like. So if this was my variable income, I can see my lowest month was 4,200, but that never really happened again. It looks like it's pretty consistently around 78, right? So you'd want to do that in the variable income, figure out what the lowest is or what you can just expect. So let's say I'm pretty confident we can bring in about $5,000 of that variable income. If you get a bonus, do not put this in here unless it's occurring this month, but don't put this in here right now. Don't divide it by 12 to smooth it all out. We are not budgeting the bonus until the month that it hits. There's some caveats to that, but that's too complicated, so we're not going to do that. So you've set up your income. You have your base income that we're going to start budgeting for, and that is going to put money here as well as what's already assigned here. And normally this is already pre-populated for you based on when you first start this. It'll try to calculate a budget based on your historical averages. This is a default setting for Monarch when you first start your account. So while it's set up does not mean it's correct, accurate. You still need to change these numbers. So now that we have this in here, we can start making some adjustments. So make sure you change your mortgage to whatever it is. It's looking like this mortgage is going all a little funky here, and I'm not sure what's going on. So we're going to take a look at here and say, hey, what's happening? For some reason there was 2 mortgage payments in February. Or look, it kind of covered maybe for February. Maybe it was paid here. Why was it higher? I don't know. Figure that out on your own time. But normally for most of you, you should be able to have a pretty consistent mortgage. So we're going to put $1,385 here. You'll notice because it was fluctuating, maybe the mortgage just came out a weird month. It's not correct, so you need to make sure you change that. So you're just going to click on that box and change it. Notice that your last 3 months do come up, so you can kind of tell what's going on in this category without having to necessarily click into it every single time. Garbage, same things. Looks like a weird month happened in February. Maybe you want to investigate that to figure out why it didn't come out in February. Otherwise, we can set an average or whatever you think is the most realistic. Sometimes the average isn't quite correct, especially if you're starting budgeting in like a really high utility month, like it's going to be more expensive. Just go ahead and start your budget on the high end. You can always decrease it going forward once it starts to drip down for like, you know, the change of the seasons. So let's say I want to set this one to about 400. So gas and electric, same deal. We're just going to put an average. This is a pretty good average. Again, this is going to fluctuate by season, so you can also get your average by clicking into gas and electric. And I recommend clicking on the yearly tab right here. And you can scroll down to this total amount. You can take this total amount, divide it by how many months have spent in the year so far. You can do this one by 5 if you're starting in May, for example. And that would give you your year's average. But if you can get like a whole year, like let's say it happened to pull in all of 23, I would do that. I would get that average instead. But not everyone is starting with a whole year's of data, so you just kind of have to make your best guess. So we're going to make that your average. You can also click on this if you want it just to be the average. It'll change it. If you want it to be February was the month that you expect, you can click on this and it automatically puts that number in. But again, we're going to go with average. Normally internet and cable is the same. As you can see, that bill isn't coming up, so we want to investigate why, or maybe you don't need this. Make sure you delete categories that you do not need. So critical. So we're going to say that's 100 for internet. I know my phone bill is about 140. As you can see right here, it's pretty consistent, so nothing needs to change there. Looks like my loans are a little funny, so what I need you guys to do is make sure you go and tally up all your loan payments. This is not including credit cards. This is just fixed payment loans. So this is your personal loans. Don't do your auto loans because that's down here. That's your auto loans. So just like personal loans, family loans, that kind of thing. So let's say I know there's about $600 worth of loans here. And insurance, again, if it fluctuates or if it's every 6 months, then it would probably belong into the sinking fund category. I go over sinking funds in another video. But if it's every 6 months, we probably want to put it here. If it is every month, go ahead and leave it up in your bills section and put in whatever it is for you guys. So I'm going to say it's $250. There's a couple other categories here. Notice there's the show 3 unbudgeted. Make sure you click on this. Make sure that there isn't anything else. I know I have a water bill and maybe it's not showing up. Maybe I need to go find it, but let's say I know there's a water bill. Same with my student loans, not showing up. Maybe I need to go find it. It's indicating to you that there's areas that you've left when you did your cleanup. Remember in that one video, last video, we're cleaning up Monarch. You may have missed some stuff. This is a perfect time to see what you missed. Why is there nothing in here? I know I have a student loan. Go find it. You can search in your transactions by dollar amount. If you know the exact number of the bill, go ahead and search for it and see what comes up. If you also can search by merchant, by if you know what account it comes out of, what date it comes out of, you can search for all of that to kind of try to see if you can find it and see why it's not showing up in your budget. All right. Same with monthly subscriptions. You want to make sure that all of these get categorized so you can figure out what that monthly subscription is for you. As you can see, there's nothing in here. So normally when there's nothing in here, it means that it ended up in entertainment for the most part. I'll go check on that. See, for example, all of my subscriptions are in entertainment. I don't want that because I want my fixed expenses to all be in one place. So we're going to put that in the monthly subscriptions. I'm going to create a rule to make sure that happens continuously. I'm going to turn off my face here. All right, so we're going to click on apply to all 11 changes, press save. I'm going to do the same thing with Disney. Monthly subscriptions. So that's me trying to find my subscriptions to see what my monthly bills are. If we leave this in entertainment, then the entertainment will fluctuate quite a bit because some months you might do movies or concert tickets and all that stuff, and we don't want that to be confusing when we're looking at your budget. So again, we're looking at my monthly subscriptions. As I can see here, it's about an average of $41 with all of those subscriptions I just moved into this category. Now, when I look at entertainment, there's nothing in there, but if I had movie tickets, it'll show me what those are. We don't want the monthly subscription to be throwing this number off. All right, so now we have our bills. That's kind of step one, is just getting all your bills in a place. Quick pause is if this is getting really confusing, if you're not sure how to get this organized, if this is getting a little overwhelming, I want to point out that I actually don't do this normally inside Monarch to start. I actually work in a spreadsheet with my clients to figure out how to set up the budget, and then I put it into Monarch. And so in the workshop that's coming up, I do give you guys that spreadsheet, so make sure you sign up for that newsletter so you can get access to those workshops that are coming up, so you can get those same sheets. And I also walk you through step by step how to set this up, things to consider when you're creating a budget. You can do this all on your own. I also offer one-on-one coaching, so if you want me to help you to walk through this, to have a third-party person looking at this, help you implement all of it, again, I encourage you to make sure you go check out my website and sign up to whatever service that you're looking for. Okay, so let's dive into it again. So now we got our bills all set up in here. We can see that there's $5,000 left to assign here, which is great. A lot of you might see some reds here. That is okay. We're still working through it. It might be red for you. We'll get there. And so we're going to continue working down this list here, making sure we assign categories based on averages or what it should be. For example, your auto payment probably shouldn't fluctuate. It's not normally usual, so go figure out what's going on there. But let's say I know my auto payment is about the last month, so $6.95. So then we're going to want to look at gas as well. Same thing. It looks like I want to pick my average. If you pick a number that is not your average, so if you're like, oh, that's too much on gas, I'm going to put 150. You need to have a clear action plan of how you're going to reduce this. Are you going to a different gas station? Are you getting coupons? Are you driving less? Are you going to carpool? Like, what are you doing here? Most people are not really changing their gas budget. They see the average and that's what it is, so we're going to click on it. But that really holds true for groceries. If you feel like your average is too high, you're looking at this number, this is your average for the last 3 months, and it's just the last 3 months. I don't think it's averaging for the last year. So if you have just a weird month, you can always click into here to look at your year. Remember, go to your total amount for this year, divide it by the amount of months that have happened so far this year to get your true average. If you set it for a number below your average, I need a plan. I need it written out. I need you to talk to your spouse. I need a very clear picture of what you are going to do to make that grocery bill smaller. Are you meal prepping? How are you meal prepping? What day are you meal prepping? Are you the one cooking? Who's cooking in your family? What are you going to do when it's a long day and it's been stressful and it's hard? How are you going to cope with that if you're trying to reduce restaurants or takeout and all that stuff? So make a plan. Otherwise, you've got to set it for your average. If you don't have a plan, if you're not willing to put the effort into changing this, you've got to set it for your average to start. And we'll just keep going down the line here. So let's say I spend about $200 on this. Pets are always probably more expensive than you think they are. Make sure you give more of a buffer than your average because of vet bills, other costs that could come up with your pets. You'd probably want to make this about $50 higher than your average. In this case, just for budgeting purposes, I'm just going to put like 200 in there. Now, most of you for shopping is going to be pretty high. It depends on how much Amazon you're doing, Target. Maybe in here you're noticing that some of these are grocery stores, so you want to change them all to groceries. You want to kind of separate out shopping as much as possible, but for some people it's just not possible. You don't want to go through all your Amazon purchases, which is fine. It's better if you're trying to reduce expenses, because remember, if you're going to reduce this, you need a clear action plan why. And if you can't even tell me what you bought at Amazon, it's going to be really hard to create that action plan. So go ahead and keep going down this list. You're just going to keep doing this over and over and over, every single one. For the sinking funds, you're going to watch my video about sinking funds, but you're setting up your monthly average. So if you know that you donate $1,200 a year, you're going to put $100 a month. That'd be $1,200 a year. And we're going to start these to roll over in the future. Again, I have multiple videos on sinking funds and rollovers. If you guys want me to continue rollovers in this series, let me know. If you want to go check out those videos, great. But keep me posted on how you guys want me to handle those rollovers and if we need to go over those again. So keep doing this as far as like the vacations. If you know you're going to spend $500 on a vacation or monthly, you know, you're building savings for that vacation. Maybe you have a big one coming up at the end of the year. Make sure you're saving for that. You want to put money in each of these buckets so that you are prepared for those non-monthly expenses. Go ahead and zero out any categories that you don't need or that you're not really budgeting for, you don't think you use often. Probably don't need to put anything in here. You can put like $100 in miscellaneous if you're just like, yeah, I'm sure there's something I'm missing. Business, if you don't have business, get rid of these. Make sure you delete all these. All right, so your left to budget is telling you it's either green or red. If it's red, it means you've assigned too many dollars. That means that life as your averages is a little too expensive and you need to dial it back or increase income. So that's where you have homework. If this is a negative, so I'm going to, just for illustration's sake, I'm going to take out my variable income and let's just say I have this salary. I'm at a negative 127. So I need to figure out where I can pull back. Maybe I'm going to reduce groceries. Again, make a plan for it. Maybe I'm going to reduce something in here. Now, if you're also thinking, well, wait, where are my savings? I'm not saving anything. That's where goals come in. So to be able to earmark savings in your budget, a monthly number, we do not put it as an expense because I need in your cash flow to show what your expenses is and what your savings is. That doesn't sound right. We need your expenses to be true. And if you mark your savings as an expense, then your expenses look higher than they actually need to be. So we are going to create a goal for just general savings, emergency fund, or you can make whatever savings goals that you want. I do have a video on goals, but I'm happy to dive into that a little bit deeper in future videos. But how I'm using goals to help create a budget is now that I have this goal, it's going to show up at the very bottom of my budget. So I'm going to scroll all the way down once it loads. All right, so now we have this savings goal here. And if you're trying to save $500 a month, let's say, we're going to put that number in and it's going to take away from our left to budget, right? We are trying to save $500. That means that you have overassigned by 627. So I had a deficit in the first place, plus I'm trying to save. So that's telling me how much money I need to cut back or increase income. Okay, so you're going to make sure you're evaluating all your categories. Make sure these are totally accurate. If this part is confusing, again, this is time where I encourage you to get in those workshops or look into the one-on-one coaching that I do. Because this can get confusing. It can be a little tough to wrap your mind around. It might feel like, whoa, that's way too far off. Maybe you need a third eye on things. So let's chat. But tell me what your questions are, what you're noticing, how if this is helpful to you as you create your budget. The goal is to try to get this down to zero. So if I can cut out expenses enough to get to zero, let's say I'm going to cut out miscellaneous. We're going to really try not to do any miscellaneous. Maybe I'm going to take a little bit of a cheaper vacation this year, and maybe I'm going to chill out on clothing. Maybe I'm going to get rid of my dog. Just kidding. We're not going to do that. But maybe I could go spend less on concerts. Okay, and then let's say I'm going to also be a little bit more mindful of groceries. Obviously, this is a budget for a single person household here. So with your family, these numbers are going to be very different. Normally, you can't change any of these things, but if maybe I can cut some subscriptions. So let's say I'm going to cut all my subscriptions. That's not totally accurate, but let's say I am. We're going to reduce subscriptions. We're going to get rid of them. I don't need them anymore. Now we have a left budget 0. You have successfully built a budget, and your goal is to see if you can stick to this budget. If you could do that, if you're watching this, right before the end of the month, see if you can stick with this the rest of the month. See if the next month you can actually stick to this plan. If not, that is indicating to you that you may have set unrealistic numbers here and you need to adjust. Maybe that means you're not able to save as much as you'd like to. Maybe that means you need to increase income or decrease expenses. So if that's all working great, awesome. If maybe, you're like, hey, I'm going to try really hard to bring in some side hustle money, then you can start assigning those dollars once you get it. I would really encourage you to not assign them until the money hits your account. So like that's the same case with bonuses, commissions, all of that stuff. Keep your paycheck as is. But if you get your bonus, let's say you got a $2,000 bonus this month, change this number once actual matches. Once that actually comes into your account, it says 2,000. Then you can update this number to match. It's going to tell you now you have 2,000. Once you budget for it, it's going to put it into this little bucket right here. and we can assign it. So now we have $2,000. Maybe I want to put those in my sinking fund. So that means I have enough money to go into these sinking funds, and I can have them start rolling over into future months when I don't use them. So we're turning on that rollover feature right there for all of the sinking funds or any of your categories that you want to have roll over into the next month. Okay. All right. So good luck. Let me know what questions you have. I'd love to continue this series, but I'd love to get your input on what you want to see next. So let me know. Keep me posted. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate all the comments you guys leave, all the support. So thank you. I look forward to talking with you soon.